Hello and happy holidays. I'm Lindsay at the Postman's Knock, and today I'm going to show you how to create a holiday card that is not just a holiday card, it is also a beautiful Christmas ornament. All right, so let's get started. You'll need a few key supplies in order to get started. First, this template is invaluable for this project, so it's a free template that's available on the TPK website, and you can print it off on any paper that's in your printer right now. Then you will need a 5x7 watercolor card. So I will be using a tinted card. This is from Strathmore. I'm going to keep it unfolded for this tutorial because it's just easier to work on it when it's unfolded, and then at the end we'll fold it up. You will need a size 1-ish paintbrush in order to do the watercolor work on the card, and optionally you can use a size 2 or 3 paintbrush to put watercolor paint on the back of your nib. On that note, you're going to need a dip pin that is fitted with the nib of your choice. I prefer a Browse Extra Fine 66 nib and a Browse Extra Fine 66 oblique, but what pin holder and nib that you use is completely up to you. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Then you will need an X-Acto knife. So this is one of those supplies that's pretty esoteric and you think, okay, I'm never gonna use that. It's cheap. You will use it. Get one if you don't have one, I promise. Also, a hole puncher, gold watercolor paint. I like to use Finetec in Arabic Gold. The paint palette of your choice. Mine is from Greenleaf and Blueberry. They don't make this particular palette anymore, but really any palette you can find that has a couple of shades of green will be perfect. Water for your watercolor, and last but not least, twine for your ornament. Okay, so let's get started. So what you're going to do first is center your watercolor card onto this template and then put both of these pieces of paper just like this on a light box or against a bright window so you can see the template shining through the paper. Then use a pencil to trace over the template. I'm going to do that real quick off camera and then I will come back. Once you've got your pencil outline drawn, take your X-Acto knife and go ahead and trace over the outline. Now you'll want something under the X-Acto knife. I am using a fancy cutting board. It's Art Alternatives brand, but for years I used cardboard boxes. So if you have a cereal box that you can just fold down so it's flat, that will work perfectly. Or just a corrugated box that you've received a shipment in. Just something to cushion your table from the X-Acto knife because you don't want the X-Acto knife to cut the table. So just go ahead, be very careful, of course, with your X-Acto knife because it is sharp. It's always good to use a fresh blade. I'm trying to press down hard because I want to make a good sturdy ornament here that easily comes out. It makes it easier if you rotate the paper as you cut. All right, now let's make sure that's going to come out. The top might be a little dicey, so I'm just going to go over this again. Okay, now let's see. Perfect. All right, let's put that back in there. And then what you're going to do is you want to get rid of the pencil lines, pencil guidelines. So take an eraser and get rid of those the best you can. And voila. At this point, I like to write a greeting on the ornament. So you can choose the greeting of your preference. I like merry and bright. So I am going to moisten 2 shades of green, a dark green and a light green. So that's Perylene green and then serpentine green. But use the 2 greens that you had. You do not have to have this palette in order to experience success with this project. Wait just a couple of seconds for that water to get in there. I used a blunt art syringe to moisten these pans of watercolor. So one of the secrets to success in writing with watercolor is making sure that it's nice and moistened before you brush it on your nib. And then once that's had a chance to settle a little bit, mix up the water with the paint. And then you'll just brush it on the back of your nib. Alrighty. And then start writing. So I'm going to go at a diagonal and I'll write Mary, or start on my M here. And I'll speed up the video here shortly so you don't have to watch me do this in real time. I can tell that my watercolor is running out, so I'm going to go ahead and add that light green color. Actually, I probably won't speed up the video until I'm done writing Mary. I know a lot of people like watching calligraphy in real time, which I try to provide videos of that, but sometimes it just takes so long. I feel bad having you guys sitting there and watching me doing it in real time. Okay, Mary. And then let's load more dark watercolor onto there, dark green. And notice I'm loading the dark green on while there's still some light green on my nib. Make a little ampersand here. Okay, now I'm going to speed up the video. Okay, you can see that I didn't make the tail of the G yet because I wanted to add a flourish there, so I'm going to go ahead and finish that G. Let's make a nice flourish. And then my pen did a really good job of making hairline upstrokes, but some of those upstrokes I can't see. And I do want this message to be legible from a distance because the whole idea is that this is a Christmas tree ornament. So if you have the same issue I did where you have these really delicate upstrokes, you can go over them again with watercolor. So we're just reinforcing some of these upstrokes. I think that hairline upstrokes are really great when you have something like an envelope where people are always going to be looking at it up close. But for something like a Christmas ornament, you want the upstrokes to be a little more visible. So that's why I'm just tracing over these with the remainder of green watercolor on my nib. Alrighty, that looks good to me. Now we're going to draw pine boughs on the card. So I'll show you how to create the first pine bough, and then after that, I'll speed up the video. But what you're going to do, oops, got a little eraser gunk there. You're going to use the same 2 colors, so the dark green and the light green that you did in order to write the calligraphy. And you'll take your size 1 paintbrush, moisten it, and then pick one of the tones. So I'm going to use the dark green tone and draw a line like this. And then grab the other tone and make curved lines, curved small lines emanating from that original line. Reload as needed. These are going to be really pretty bushy pine boughs. And then once you do that, you're just going to take your brush and use tiny strokes to fill in every part of what you just painted. And then continue to reload. And what I would do as you reload is alternate. So if you just loaded your brush with the dark green, now load your brush with the light green. And try to make individual lines if you can. It's okay if they all kind of blend together, because that's what we see when we look at a pine tree from a distance, right? You don't see individual pine needles. And even this middle stem, we are paying attention to that and filling that in. Then we'll do the other side here. You might experience a little bit of difficulty when you come to the part of the ornament that's cut, and that is okay. Just do your best at that part, because the cut will give your brush a little bit of resistance. Okay, almost done here. I love the juxtaposition of the dark watercolor with the light green watercolor. It looks a lot more realistic than just using one tone. So that's why we're using these two tones. So now I think that you get the gist of how to draw this pine bough. I am going to go ahead and fill out my card with pine boughs, but I'm going to speed up the video because I think it's going to take me about 15 minutes and I don't want you to have to sit here for the whole 15 minutes. So go ahead and watch me, pay attention to the layout, and then after that, we will move on to the next step. All right, now we've got some nice bushy pine boughs, but you can see that we have quite a bit of negative space within the card. So I have moistened a Finetec Arabic gold pan, and what I'm going to do is add various sizes of golden circles to this card. I'm just mixing it up nice and thoroughly because I want to make sure that this gold is opaque. If it's not thoroughly mixed, then you'll get more of a translucent gold. And then what I'm going to do is try and fill in the negative space using my size 1 paintbrush and Finetec gold. So here's a good place to put in some gold. You can see I made my circle first and then I filled it in. Then I'm going to make another circle here, just circles of various sizes. So the goal for me is to give the illusion of almost looking at a Christmas tree. So I'm going to put some gold over branches too. So it's like you've got glittering lights on the card. And if you look at the card in the light, you'll be able to see that this gold dances in the light. Make sure too that you put some gold on your ornament, because remember that ideally your ornament will be standing alone, because that's the cool thing about this card. It's not just a greeting card that you send to somebody, you're also sending them an ornament. Okay, I think you get the gist of what I'm doing here, so I'm going to speed up the video so you can watch me do this faster. Okay, now let's let that dry. My gold paint is all dry, and I know that because I've been looking at it from the side and I don't see any pools of wet paint. So what I'm going to do is an optional step, and that is adding microglaze in order to ensure that the ornament lasts a little bit longer. So that way, if it's exposed to moisture, it's exposed to dirt, it's just not going to be damaged, because of course it is paper, which makes it a little less resilient than your typical Christmas ornament. So I'm just going to take a fingerful of that and rub it over my piece. Especially when you're dealing with watercolor, I noticed I made some bookmarks the other week where I just used Fine Tech to create them. And I did add microglaze to one of the bookmarks, but then the other two I didn't. Well, my 9-month-old got a hold of one of the bookmarks that didn't have microglaze, and now that bookmark is a mess. Of course she put it in her mouth, and the Fine Tech went all over the place, so it's all blurry and stuff, and that made me think, I should be more careful about putting microglaze on things, so if little hands and mouths find them, then those things are protected. And the microglaze is non-toxic. It's not that you would want to actually ingest large quantities of it, but you don't have to worry if you too have a 9-month-old who tends to get into things. And I'm just buffering the microglaze smooth here with my art cloth. I'll just work on this separately. How does that sound? Because we need to take this out anyway in order to punch a hole in it. So you look good. Let's finish you up. Okay, perfect. Now that is all treated. And what we're going to do at this point is punch a hole in the top of the ornament. So try to center your hole punch the best you can, and then go ahead and punch a little hole. Okay. And then grab some twine. And I need some scissors too. Hold on just a second. Okay, so I've got my jute twine here, and then just cut some. Doesn't matter how long, I probably did about 1 foot. And then what I'm going to do actually is prep this card for sending. So you just put the ornament back into the card the best you can. This part is just a little bit tricky, but just requires some pushing and finding that exact fit. And then take your jute twine, or any twine really. You could also use baker's twine. I think that would be cool. And then run it through the top of that ornament. And this is exactly how you're going to send the card. So you can see that the card looks like one cohesive piece. But in reality, all the recipient has to do is take this ornament out, and then they'll tie the top, and it becomes an ornament for their tree. I hope that you enjoyed this project. I love this card because it's not just a card, it's something that somebody can treasure forever, because you get a lot of Christmas cards throughout the years, and where are you going to put them? But this card is actually an ornament. So if you want to, write a message on the back of the ornament, maybe something like your name and the year, and then people can display it on their tree for years to come.